call to order the meeting of the Board of Health for January 10th. This meeting is being recorded. Okay, you want to start with the minutes? Have you had a chance to look at the minutes, Kevin?
Yeah, I wasn't here.
Okay.
I did look at them, but I wasn't here, so.
So my only, and maybe this is just language, but my only issue with the minutes, sorry, I'm just pulling them up on my phone, is number 4, the transfer station topic. It says tabled, and yes, it was tabled, but it was tabled after me requesting 3 times that we spend time on it last meeting, so it's not represented there, but it was certainly not tabled.
And it's always on the agenda. Transfer station is always on the agenda.
I think we decided that in a prior meeting because
Right.
it's such a hot topic in town,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So do you want me to change the wording of it, Melissa?
Because we didn't talk about it, so it wasn't that we discussed tabling it.
Right. It was just not
tabled,
it was
no.
just not acknowledged for discussion.
So I don't know if you
Yeah,
want
I
to take
think
that out.
I listened to it, it just sounded like it was just disregarded. That's what it sounded like during the meeting. but-
I'll put whatever you guys want me to put.
It wasn't tabled. We didn't
Okay,
discuss it, so
so-
I would take it out.
So just takes transfer station out completely?
Was that, see, I didn't have a chance to, I didn't print mine out. So was it under the transfer station section that you put that? Where did you put
It
it?
was under old unfinished business.
Which transfer stations, I would
Always
take out tabled. I would take out the word tabled, not the whole thing, just
So
tabled.
just transfer station and that's not writing anything next to it?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, so somebody needs to make a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the Board of Health minutes from the December 20th, 2022 meeting.
As amended?
As amended, sorry, yes.
All right, I'll second that. All right, do a roll call. Melissa?
Yes.
Kevin?
Abstain?
And I'm a yes. All right, do we want to do dates for meetings for the rest of the year, or do you want to wait and do it later?
Let's do that at the end.
Okay. Okay, so Jacob?
You want me to
Hi.
stand?
Whatever you're comfortable with. It's easier for you to see us.
So I have a meeting planned for a special permit on the 31st, I believe, and I was sharing some of my ideas about what I plan to do, open a body art establishment with Teresa, and she said I should set up a meeting, this meeting, in order to kind of go over some of the differences, the minor differences I have with the verbiage that is written in the regulations, and sort of standards of the practice that I currently do. The first one is that it says that each station requires a sink, and it doesn't say that it needs to necessarily be plumbed. We currently have self-contained internal sinks with hot and cold water at the shop. That's what we use. It's a sort of convenience. I was hoping to make sure that that would be something that was acceptable when I open the establishment. Also, it says that there has to be a bathroom in the establishment on the regulations in Hanson. I was hoping that the common area bathrooms in the facility would be sufficient. There's 3 of them. And those are my main issues with plumbing. I did go on the MassGov and find the model regulations for body art establishments, and I highlighted some of the wording. It's a little different. I'll give this to you guys. It doesn't say that I know that they're different per the town, obviously, and you guys make your own rules, but it doesn't say that a hand sink, it just says every operator needs a sink, and there has to be a minimum of a toilet room. It doesn't say exactly in the establishment, and it doesn't say what kind of sink it is. I do plan on having a janitorial sink plumbed. One of the, where I work, we all use them. I know other places that use them. They work fine. And then thirdly, it says in the regulations that I think it might even say equivalent of, as far as giving an applicant their permit for body art practice. It says that they need to have anatomy 1 and physiology 1. There is a subsequent equivalent that everyone I know in tattooing has taken that was administered by the Quincy Board of Health. It's this Quincy skin course. You have to go there, learn about different types of skin, and take a test on it and pass it. When I was going through the regulations of the state, it separated piercing and body art, where it said anatomy classes and physiology classes are more important for piercing, which there will be none of in my business, and that it really was more about skin infections and knowledge of the skin that you had to have to be a tattoo practicer. So I was hoping my current education on skin courses was equivalent as well, not necessarily having taken the aforementioned. I have been doing it for 4 years.
And there were other things that were required as well. The CPR.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that the only one that you were.
Yeah, just I've
was the
mentioned
anatomy.
things that I had,
Okay.
there may be a hiccup or a rope up on those things. Everything else is fine.
Yeah, skin disease and disorders, and anatomy and physiology. Okay. What's the location that you're thinking of using?
500 Liberty Street. It's where the Bostonian
Conway
barbershop
Building.
is.
Oh, yeah,
on the
no,
other side.
I wondered if it was the Bostonian.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
How many artists are you intending to have?
I'm really only planning on having 2, with the possibility of a potential 3rd in the future, given the success drives me there.
How many apprentices?
1.
One apprentice?
One apprentice, eventually they'll graduate to a tattoo artist, and then potentially a 3rd in the future if I see fit or necessary.
An artist present when the apprentice is working?
Yes, 100% of the time. They have to observe 1,800 hours, but I would have them there every day observing, and I'd be educating them on every aspect of the practice.
Do you have anything, a description of the class that you took through Quincy?
The description of the class,
What it covers?
it covered all like different skin diseases, basically like rashes, how to identify certain things, keloids, hemophilia, skin that you shouldn't work with. It was a lot. It was picture based and name based. Pretty much what to look for in skin that shouldn't be worked on.
And who provided it?
It was the Quincy Board of Health.
Okay. So they would have something that has a description of the whole course?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else has questions.
No, maybe that's something he could reach out to the Quincy Board of Health and they
Right,
can just send over
because
to our office.
It would be, yeah, it would be nice to see what, does it cover everything that you need to have covered?
And then the other stuff, I mean, just sounds like it's not complications, but just he's working within an existing building and
Right,
in a tenant
right.
space that already exists, so, he really can't change
put
too
in.
much.
No. No?
Everyone that I work with has the same course, ironically enough. Every single person that I know in my industry has that same certificate. So I forget exactly the name. I think the woman that was hosting it retired from doing that, but I will find that out.
Okay. Gil?
I realize this is the first license that we're giving out here, and we haven't done one before, so I think we review it, and he's been cooperative, so maybe some of these things. The biggest thing is the apprenticeship thing, as far as apprentices, and the regulation on the apprentices.
Yeah, it's very
You've got that-
important to me
you've got
that
that
the
part.
person is worth my time to to teach them,
Yeah.
that they have that skill, and they practice everything the same way I practice it. I'm the cleanest person I work with. I worked for a cleaning company for 8 years.
Yeah. From the regular body fluid kits and all that stuff in the regulation, I think,
Yeah,
and blood pathogen kits and stuff
Yep.
like that. Okay, good.
Is there a certain number of licenses that we can give out, or permits that we can give out for this type of business?
I don't think it's regulated. I don't think we have
Yeah.
regulations.
I was just
It's
curious.
definitely not in
I was
ours.
just curious.
Yeah, this is the first time we've had a, you know.
Yeah, I haven't
so,
seen any of it before.
yeah.
And it says it requires a hearing. You have to have a public hearing.
Mhm.
When were you looking to start?
I was looking to hopefully sign the leasing agreement as soon as I can, which would be after the hearing for the special permit.
Mhm.
But I think I would wait about a month to get everything set up, and then come here and make sure that everything is up to standards before I practice in there. Make sure that the town is okayed it, obviously, right? That's
Mhm.
probably what you guys are gonna tell me anyways, so I'm assuming. But yeah, maybe March.
Okay.
So just to be clear, you're asking for, it sounds like you're asking for three things. To have one sink for 2 practitioners.
No, I would have 2 sinks.
Or you would have
Yeah,
two
they
sinks.
just self-contained sink
I see.
apparatuses. Yep.
Okay. And then to be able to use the common area bathrooms instead of having your own
Yeah.
dedicated bathroom for your business. And using the Quincy Board of Health course instead of the A&P course.
Right. Does it say, actually does it say equivalent for,
I don't think it did. It didn't say anything about an equivalent.
One and 2.
Yep.
It's extensive.
Mm-hmm. That's why I wanted to see
Yeah.
what the description was of the
Yeah.
class that they teach.
I would like to see the Quincy Board of Health course description and cover.
Yeah,
okay.
so yeah, we're gonna definitely need the course description to see if it covers all of those areas.
Yeah.
Everything. It sounds like it covers that, but it doesn't, I'm not sure about the anatomy and physiology. And did you say you had a date set for a hearing?
Yes, Virginia sent me with a date when I was here.
Oh, is that for
Zoning.
zoning?
Yeah, you have to
That's
go through
Special
Special
zoning.
permit for
Yes,
zoning.
yeah. Okay.
So that's separate from a hearing? So what do I have to do to get a hearing?
No, we would just have to set up a hearing,
Oh,
a
okay.
public hearing. According to the rules and regulations, we would have to set that up prior to you opening. Probably open it up for public comment.
So am I to be there?
You probably would want to be there.
I would want to be, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
When is your date for the zoning meeting?
It's the 31st, it's a Tuesday. And I
31st.
believe it's at
So-
7.
When are we probably gonna have our next Board of Health meeting?
I was thinking the 7th of February, not to be about 4 weeks. If I look at a calendar.
So would it make sense to potentially put them on for that?
The
Oh,
seventh.
yeah, for the 7th.
Do we wanna do that? Do we wanna put them on the agenda for the
For the 7th,
first?
yep. And you post it as a hearing.
And we'll have that Board of Health material before. Quincy
Yes,
Board of Health
we would
material
have to
before.
have that material before.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you could get that material to us
Okay.
before the 7th,
Yep.
and then we can let you know. Because I think the regulations also say the hearing has to be advertised, right?
I have no idea.
Oh, I believe it has to be advertised.
I know she's advertising the,
Two separate
for the
things.
permit, okay.
But it's two
That's
separate
zoning.
I didn't
things.
know if one was for the other.
And from what I read through, I think it's gonna be at your cost, that it'd
That's
be.
fine.
So, just want you to know that in
I'm
advance.
used to that. It's a life thing.
Just so that you're not surprised. But you can get that information back to Teresa, and then we can set everything up
Awesome,
for February 7th,
awesome.
okay?
Is there a specific time you could guess, like 4 again, or?
We could, but
Yeah.
yeah, we could possibly
Okay.
do 4,
Okay.
4:30, depending on
Four.
your schedule.
Four.
4's okay?
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
Good to go.
okay. Okay, you had efficiency and management.
So I guess sort of on the heels of the transfer station not being discussed last week, I have some concerns that we are not using our time quite as efficiently as we should be. I see the transfer station as a pretty big issue in town. Not that we need to spend extensive time on it, but I am concerned that of the last 3 meetings, we've spent 2 of those meetings almost entirely on the shared services agreement. And almost, I would say, a total of 5 minutes on the transfer station. And there are some significant issues at the transfer station. So that's one concern. I guess my other concern is that there are, and I'll put it out there, I'm obviously new to this process in a lot of ways, but I worry when we talk about things here and then they fall off the docket or our agenda, and then they come back up, 2 weeks, 3 months down the road. For example, the catering at Camp Kawani. So I just want to make sure that things here don't happen unilaterally, that all 3 of us are involved in and included to the degree that it is appropriate in these things being addressed and followed through on, because it is a reflection on the entirety of the board. And I know that there are a number of things that I have heard happening that seem to be business of the entire board, but never make it here. So I want to put that out there and figure out how we can be more efficient in our use of our once-a-month board meetings, and make sure we're working as a board unit.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said that as nicely. I think, Melissa, you pretty much hit it on the head. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of, acting as a sole member of a board rather than a board as a whole. And I feel like, I can speak for myself, I feel like I'm left out on a lot of stuff. Like I found out that there was supposed to be a meeting, I guess, yesterday or something with Gil and with you and with Lisa regarding Gil's job and responsibilities. I mean,
Absolutely not true. I don't know who told you that. That is
but I'm just
absolutely
saying,
not true.
like I feel like these things should be discussed when we're all sitting here. They shouldn't be discussed. And as far as I know, Gil doesn't work for Lisa. Gil works for this board. He's an employee for this
So
board.
we're gonna need to back up because the topic was office coverage.
Right.
As a
But
department head, he does work for Lisa. So you're wrong in that, your assumption.
what I'm getting at, Arlene, is since I've been on this board, the board hasn't been acting as a board. Things have been happening a lot behind the scenes unilaterally, and I think that we just gotta change a few things to kind of bring the board back together as a whole and to stay on topic and do things and follow through with things that we say we're gonna do, and never mind the stuff that we really shouldn't be getting involved in.
And you'd have to give me some ideas, topics. So what is it you think that we've been getting involved in or unilaterally has been done?
I don't wanna get into a public session, it's okay.
Oh,
I'm just saying
okay.
that's how I feel. I don't wanna
That's.
get
you
too
don't have to feel
involved
that
into
way.
this, but
So Teresa, for next month, can you put on the agenda office coverage? So we can discuss it as a board. Does that seem okay? You do realize the camp, that the person that we needed to speak to was sick when she was scheduled for that last meeting. And then she was supposed to be on this meeting, but we have to do the budget. That's
Okay.
the only reason she wasn't rescheduled.
So I guess one of the ways to mitigate that would be to somehow develop a mode of communication, probably through Teresa, where we know that, because then it's left as an open-ended, fell off the agenda, never to be heard from again. And I know I'm left thinking, we have this outstanding thing that Teresa's, brought up twice that we really do need to address, and did it get handled without the board? I'm
Yeah,
filling in the
no,
blanks, and
no,
I don't want to be
no,
filling in
and
the
I don't-
blanks
and I don't-
unnecessarily.
I don't know who notified me, or did they notify you that she was sick?
I didn't know anything
It was
about
me,
it.
okay, then Frank let me know that she couldn't come,
Okay.
and that we were gonna push it to January.
So, I know our communication has to be circumvented, obviously, through Teresa, which makes sense. I just, I'm a fan of over-communicating, so we're not filling in the blanks and wondering what's happening with some of these topics, because we're all accountable to
Right.
the community at the end of the day.
And communication doesn't have to be that limited. We cannot deliberate
Right.
outside.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Joe, where? All right? Are you all set?
Yes.
Okay. Kevin?
Yeah, the other thing that was just a little concerning to me, I'm not against any further education or anything, but with the shared service agreement where we had spent a lot of time on that before, and the board eventually took a vote on it, and then it just appeared on the next agenda again for what, who?
And you, in your email, you had said revote, and there was never any discussion of voting that night?
No.
No. It was information, because the information that I got at the first meeting was incorrect. I
Okay.
went to Pembroke's meeting and heard something totally different, and I asked him to come back and explain what was true. And so there was no plan for there to be a vote, and I know that you were concerned about that in the email that you sent, that it was going to be revoted. There was never any discussion about it being revoted.
I wasn't concerned with any information or any change in vote. I was concerned with just how it came about and where it came from. And because from where I'm sitting, I just see these things happening and these things taking place and these things coming out of nowhere that I have no knowledge of.
And you can also reach
Yeah.
out. If you
Yeah.
have concerns, if you don't want to reach out directly, you go through Teresa and say, this came up, where did that come from?
I mean,
Which is what you do.
I do. I'm an over-communicator. That's what I do for a living. And it might be annoying. But sorry, Teresa.
Not annoying. I don't
But
find it annoying.
I guess I'm going to touch a little bit on last meeting when we do get to the shared services agreement, because I have lots of issues. It really wasn't. Last week was really not, or last meeting was really not about explaining what was true. It was an ambush on me, and it was very directed on me specifically, and we can talk about that more.
Okay.
But I guess what I would say about last meeting, and this goes to my point on efficiency, I love trainings. And Cheryl's training was extremely informative and helpful, and I hope I get more from her. But I'm not sure that's the best use of our meeting time, our precious 2 hours together a month. Because if you tell me you want me to take a training, I will do it. I spend my life in trainings outside of sessions, so I have no problem doing trainings, but I would prefer we do those outside of our board meeting time, or have a second board meeting where we do a training.
Just a training.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Kiosk.
Okay, the kiosk at the transfer station, we did not know that Pacquion had been bought out by Flowbird. Yeah, Flowbird is the company that owns it. And that particular machine has a flaw in the card reader, and it doesn't recognize the 2027 number as far as credit cards.
Oh,
So that's the problem with it. We do have a service thing set up for it to be replaced. They will replace it, and they said it was like a 2 or 3 week time to get it replaced. So they probably get another week and a half. They're supposed to let us know when they're gonna come down to it. But it is actually the card reader, and it has to be replaced because something has a flaw in it as far as reading the 2027 card. So
Are they gonna cover the cost of that?
yes,
Great.
so it's an upgrade because the other company does not service it anymore. Flowbird will be servicing it themselves now.
That's the software company, Flowbird, because that's the software that I use for them.
Yeah.
That's the name of the software.
Yeah, so these are the people that are replacing it, Flowbird.
What are we doing to accept payments for trip tickets for now? They just have to come in?
Come into the office.
Yeah.
There are
Oh,
some that are,
it's some
there are
kind-
still a lot that are going.
Yeah, a lot
through.
Oh,
going
okay,
through,
it's
but
just
not that
selective,
many.
yeah.
It's only,
It's
there
just-
shouldn't be a lot where 27 is the end date
Yeah.
at this
so-
point. Like 26, but not 27.
Yeah, that's far out.
It is.
Could we, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
On the
no.
same, on the same topic.
I'm off topic now, so go
Okay.
ahead.
So with the kiosk, I was chatting with Chris up there, and he was wondering about the efficiency of having the keys not, or one key not kept there on site. So when paper gets jammed or there are issues with the machine, he doesn't have to call Gil off hours or in the week, on the weekends is usually.
And you have 2 keys, right?
Yeah,
And it seems reasonable. He thought there was a reason why a key couldn't be kept there, and so I said we should talk about it here and decide.
Has anybody asked you for a key?
yeah, I've always been told the keys, keys stay in the office,
Oh.
and I bring them down, that's what I was always explained to, so. I got no problem giving him a key, I mean, it's, he's watched how to do it, reset it and everything, so. I mean, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't have a key.
Just, meaning it should be kept in the shed, in the white shed.
Yeah.
In the
In the
office?
key box,
in the
yeah.
office. Yeah, okay.
So you're gonna give him a key,
Yeah, give him a key, as long as everybody agrees to it, so.
right?
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that.
Yeah, I'm good with it, unless I didn't know if there was some reason why that wasn't established.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna do budget?
Is someone here for 334 High Street?
Not, it doesn't look like it.
Huh?
It doesn't look like it, because I asked her that. We could do it at the beginning of the meeting, but she also didn't think anybody was gonna come.
Oh,
Okay.
So did you wanna do that?
No, I just didn't know if someone was here waiting for it, that's all.
No. You're not here for that, right? No, I didn't think so. Okay, nope. So budget. You wanna talk about that, Gil?
Yeah, pretty much, everything is level funded with a 2% increase on salaries and stuff. If you look at the Board of Health stuff, the salary, my salary, it goes, animal inspector, then clerical, advertising, meeting and mileage, water testing, office supplies, the medical supplies, membership dues, and other expenses. And,
What's
The
all
budget-
expenses?
that's always been on there.
What is it?
Which one?
I think it's like
I didn't hear
a,
what she said.
other expenses,
Oh,
It was 0
Which page?
before.
but then it was in the 2023 budget. So,
I'm not even sure.
I'll look
where
at the
we're at.
narrative on that one. So that's pretty much the budget, there's,
I have
not
a
much has
question
really
on
changed.
page 2, contracted services. It's at the top.
Page two.
Yeah, page 2 of the printout. Oh, it's my page 2, so.
Which one's that?
Yeah.
Teresa?
It's the expenditure budget report. It's just got like 4 items on it.
That's weird, yours is printed out different.
Yeah, mine
Is-
printed
yeah.
out different, so.
Well,
That's
right
why.
there,
Which one's that?
last one. That's, food inspections.
Food inspections and stuff? Okay. So that's pretty much level funded for now,
The food inspections?
yeah. So,
No.
that is,
Wait, hold on, back up.
back up, okay?
Yep, back up, because fiscal year '22, is this the actual amount that we spent? The 3875?
Correct.
Yeah,
But '23, is zeros being appropriated? And you, but
we're in
for
24.
24,
We're in 24.
I understand, but 24, you're requesting 1725, so that's not level funded.
Let me see. I
It's
can't see.
zero.
Yeah, I'm not reading it right either, so.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
seeing the same thing.
Contracted services, see, this is for 2023.
Yeah.
You put in for 2024, there was nothing, that line was 0 last year, but this is how much was spent, it was
Oh,
never
okay.
funded.
No, that's fine. Let's change that.
Okay, and you're saying that's for what kind of inspections?
Food.
Food?
and-
Food, right?
Food.
So I would have a question about that, but go ahead.
And then we still have the V&A budget, which we should be using that money for a nurse. I mean, we haven't really seeked out a nurse to use that money. We've used it before for contact tracing in the past, and we've never expended that. So that's, what else we have here? So that's the basic budget for the Board of Health. Board of Health itself budget is, rather small budget, not a lot of lines and everything. So, and anything there is pretty much, as far as the salaries go, the 2%, which that might change, who knows, but that's the basic budget. So that's the one correction I'll change there, so. There was one other thing. Where am I here? Support. Okay, it's not in this budget here, so.
I have a question about attendance, part-time attendance. I'm trying to figure out why in 22 we were at 12, and in 23 we're at 22.
Hold on.
Where are you at?
Let's see.
That's what we spent, double.
Probably had more coverage then in 21.
Brian stopped working, probably what, for 6 months? At least 6 months or more?
Yeah, but that's,
So this is what was appropriated, but this is not the actual?
that's what was appropriated. So I just made that to 22,000. Especially sometimes he's gonna leave, we're gonna have to end up hiring somebody. So that's pretty much, it's like 2% added to that.
So this-
We are going to have him try to work a few more days to police the stickers more. There seems to be a lot of activity at the transfer station, and there's a lot of traffic lately on certain days. So I'm going to check stickers, kind of bear down on checking stickers. How many stickers are not there, and possibly check numbers on stickers. It looks like we should probably start doing that. Just spot check, like say you get sticker 260, find out who has 260, maybe do a sheet to make sure that, that sticker belongs in that vehicle. There seems to be a lot of vehicles going in there, and when they're running 3 lines, it's very hard to check all the stickers with the 2 guys going back and forth to the compactor. So I talked to Chris about this, maybe, have Brian come in on certain days and do that, just checking stickers. So make sure everybody's got stickers, because we are having a lot of traffic going through there, so.
So my question, I guess, for 23, it says appropriated, so we don't know what we've spent to date for attendance. So it says the 22 was appropriated.
He doesn't work very
I know.
very
Yeah.
rarely.
I know.
Very rarely.
Okay.
So-
I can get that number later.
No, we'll get that. I mean, I didn't do the expended part of this yet, so. This is the stuff that has to be, sent in, the stuff that's
Right.
supposed to be budgeted,
By the end of the
the
month.
budget, so.
Recycling. Down here, we spent 9,000 in 22, but yet we only appropriated 7,000 for this year. And it may go up to 8, and the recycling costs are gonna go up higher than that. So I think that amount might need to be looked at.
Yeah, look at that. We also have to discuss, as far as the funds, we get to expend some funds pretty quick, so,
And we can use RDP
yes, and recycling,
for recycling.
yes.
Yeah, we need to spend some time on that.
Yes.
Right, that needs to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Next, RDP.
Yeah, so these are the recommended numbers. These numbers will change. These numbers I definitely,
See,
feel are going to change, so.
you're gonna submit these for town meeting for May, but we might need to tweak them between now and then.
Oh, yeah, we'll tweak in between, because that's the whole idea, meeting with the new town accountant started today, so in the next week or so, next few weeks, we'll have to meet with him, go over all these things as far as, his expertise. We lost Todd, so, and they're saying this guy's, pretty good, he's very familiar with these, these things, so. A lot of this stuff's just, boilerplate, so, let's see, what else, let me hear something else.
Trying to find hazardous waste.
It's,
Hazardous waste comes out of our
page.
building.
Right down here. 3,000.
3,000.
We might need to
Yeah.
look at that, but we might be able to get that out of RDP.
I do take it out of RDP.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
All right, I don't know if anybody else has questions.
because that used to be
Okay.
10.
It used to be 10.
It used to
Yep.
be 10 and then went down to 5, and then
chopped.
it's been 3 for the past few years.
Yeah, when Matt Tanis was here, he cut it down.
Yes, he was forced to cut it down though.
I know.
Yeah.
So Kevin, do you have any more questions?
so these are the basic figures
No.
that we're working with right now, so hopefully get together with the new town accountant, so we can go over the things as far as what we'll actually need for Maytown meeting.
So do we want to put this back on for next month to see if he's met with the town accountant?
Yeah,
And if any other recommendations are made for areas like recycling, we know we're going to have high costs.
yeah, well, we know right now that, the disposal costs are gonna be up higher than what
They're going up.
I've actually,
Down.
actually got,
With the most
the
recent
amount, so.
increases, as part of managing the waste management, proposal that will hopefully be forthcoming.
Yeah.
She asked for an up-to-date bill, and the cost last month went up through the roof.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Anything else on budget? No? Okay.
We'll have to do something as far as what has been expended so far.
Okay, if you can bring that next month so that we have an idea of what was appropriated and what was expended, it's helpful. Septic plan.
Okay.
Was this a 5-bedroom or was that my imagination? No,
It is.
It is. And on the review, did he put Hanover?
I don't know, you'd have to look. Could be, because he reviews for Hanover
Hanover.
and Pembroke, I believe.
On his review paperwork. Okay, if I can find it. Oh, there's the variances, that's what I was looking for. Couldn't see it on my phone. There is the review report.
It's not at the beginning?
Probably isn't, I'm blind.
Okay.
Yeah, Town of Hanover.
I was gonna say, I try to keep it the second page.
I know you have an order to them, but it said no further comments, so,
Yeah, he only
DEP.
reviewed it once.
okay. So then the 2 variances they're looking for are what's listed here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you need to see any of this.
I've already looked at
You
it.
looked at it? Okay. You have any questions? Okay, I guess. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variances as requested on the plan for 334 High Street.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, board reorganization?
I had asked for this to go on, I just thought, first of the year, I thought it might be beneficial if the board chose to reorganize. I just figured we'd put it on for discussion and see how all the board members felt. I know when Ms. Benetti first came on board that I had made a motion for her to be chair, just because I thought it would be good, just for someone new, someone fresh, to, just kind of do that and just, not to really shake things up, but just to kind of have a different perspective, different leadership rather. And I think just where she was new, maybe she didn't feel comfortable with it or not, but I just I'm impressed with her thoroughness and efficiency, and I think she is a good asset to the board. So I was just wondering if anyone else would like to reorganize. I guess I'll make a motion that the board take a reorganization vote, if anyone wants to second it.
I will second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Obviously, I was the one that mentioned the matter of efficiency and management, and I think, yes, when I was nominated right off the gate, it was daunting. But I think that I could do well by organizing and making sure we're operating efficiently and getting things done, and move through our board at this point. Hence my second.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Okay. So now do you have to nominate? You have to do nominations.
I'll make a motion to nominate Melissa Panetti as chair.
I will second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay,
Vice Chair?
right, Vice Chair. I'll make a nomination for myself as Vice Chair.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. Oops. Transfer station.
You're the clerk.
Well,
You clerk.
What is it?
You have
It's
to be
just a
clerk?
member. I
No,
don't think
it's
it's
a
actually a
member.
clerk,
No.
it's a
No.
member.
Okay.
I wasn't having what the question was, but.
I didn't hear it either.
So we are here.
So, transfer station. It's a decent-sized topic. As I mentioned just a moment ago, Teresa and I got a bill, the most recent bill, and I printed it to bring. It's substantial. The fuel charges
heavy?
alone have
Oh,
doubled
they've doubled.
in
absolutely.
a month, so compared to our last bill. So we're looking at a pretty decent budgetary issue.
Is this for 1 month? The
Mm-hmm.
account balance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really gonna be tweaking that budget.
Yeah. So all of the numbers that certainly that I've run prior in thinking about what we can do to better navigate do you want to see this, Ken? To better navigate the budget for the transfer station are sort of null and void at this point, because the numbers aren't even close. So we're still waiting for the two proposals. Heather Laurel from Waste Management indicated, I followed up with her this week, and she indicated that the proposal should be forthcoming. She wanted one or two more questions, which Teresa answered, but, and then Gil is still managing the,
Waste connection.
Waste Connections, and they are not responding or haven't heard?
Well, the last I spoke to them, like maybe 10 days ago, they're still putting it together.
Okay,
But, the industry is, changing radically, so I'm sure they're making sure that they dot the i's and cross the t's, but we do need it, and we need it pretty soon. So I'll put the pressure on them for at least have it by next week, so.
I mean, I think that's the sort of immediate, but
Yeah.
the other point, I had some communication with FinCom, with Mike Dugan,
Mhm.
FinCom. And, they really feel strongly that the structure somehow has to change, and I think getting that bill and realizing how significantly the costs are gonna jump, we probably need to entertain that.
Right. Talking about the enterprise fund?
The enterprise fund isn't, I mean, we can't raise the
Useful.
stickers enough to make this budget work.
No.
So I think that's just the hard reality of it. So, what I think we need to do is sit down with the town accountant and FinCom and really look at that.
And the invoice was increased with no notice.
I'm
So,
not surprised.
I know, which is, again, that's
but at least if
that's
it's
the problem.
increased, and you are aware of it, you get some notice, you can
Right.
somewhat try to plan for it.
Right.
So, and that's to my point of how problematic it's been to not be under contract for all these years. I mean, they really have had us at their whim.
It doesn't matter, because even under contract, they
They have a caveat.
have a caveat,
They do.
30 days notice, they go up.
But at least we get some notice. We got nothing. or even, not only do we not get notice, but like, this went up a lot. This is double. So having a heads up.
We also
30 days is at least
are
a
going to
little
need
better
to
to
look into
swallow.
what we need to do to dissolve the enterprise fund.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking. I think having the new accountant, FinCom, us, together to sit down and talk about it probably makes a lot of sense at this point.
And is that a separate meeting? Not necessarily part of this meeting.
I think so.
Okay. I'm sure, did he have more about transfer, or do you?
I got, well,
I wasn't sure
I have
if
a
he was-
list.
I got a list. Oh, all right. Hey, that's what I say, because there's a couple more things, so.
So the swap shop opened this weekend. Chris sent me a picture. He did a really great job down there.
He really had fun designing and putting things together.
He did. He had a good time, and I have to say that it looks remarkable for the room that it's in. I
Yeah.
mean, where it came from, like talk
Yeah.
about home improvement job. He did a great job. But he would like a sign to be made for, and I think we can use the RDP
Yeah.
funds for this,
It should
to be
in-
made for the door, so people aren't just dumping things outside of it, which we really want to try to avoid. So it made sense to me. I asked him to just email it so I could bring it.
I do have a question, but I don't think I understood that the beginning of the swap shop was going to be staffed by the attendants. I thought it was going to be volunteers.
I think we talked about for the 3-month pilot, I know we talked about, for the 3-month pilot, we were gonna have Chris and John attend to that, not before their transfer station duties, but, which is why he wants the sign, but really in between, and they would oversee it, and we would check on the success of it, or lack of success after 3 months, and then decide if we should start a volunteer program, if we were gonna continue it. So, and he's been pretty good. I've been up there a couple times when he's had to just have people kind of wait, and he attended to the transfer station operations and then came back and assisted. But I don't know, I was away this weekend, so I don't know if anyone was up there and if there was any activity, but there's a lot of donations. There's quite a bit of stuff in the room.
Yeah, I was in there on Sunday and there was quite a
Was
bit of
it?
stuff in there, yeah.
Yeah, because I think he was going to open it up to put some of the stuff on the other side, because there really wasn't enough room,
It is a very small area.
small space.
Yeah. But he's made pretty good use of the space that he has.
He did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really took that bull by the horns and went with it and did well. So I don't know if everybody's okay with
I'm
that.
going to give that to, yeah. I don't know that people will adhere to that, but.
I know.
you can put it up. There were bottles and cans in front of the door one day when I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said to him, there's gonna be bumps in the road, like anything that you start up, and we need to just problem solve and do our best and see where we end up in 3 months. But this weekend, I'll pop up there both days and check in and see how things are going and hang around and check out the stock. The bins, I got an email from a citizen about the clothing bins being slamming and pinching fingers.
I talked to that person. The only way she could have done that was to have put her hand, because when you go to the bin, the door opens up like this.
Mhm.
You would have to have your hand here and let it go. That is the only way. Because she had overstuffed a bag and put it in, so I did the exact same thing. And the only way you can catch your hand like that is your hand has to be up there, and you have to not move it.
So I wonder if, and it does slam, I checked it out, I mean, it slams. I wonder if it makes sense to put some sort of sticker that notifies people.
Well, Chris is supposed to send you a copy of the sticker. There's a sticker
I
to
think there's a sticker
pinch
on
point.
the bin.
There is?
No.
Yeah.
I didn't see one, but I if there was, that's great, I just missed
Yeah.
it. But I think just some way to notify people
You be
who
careful.
may not
I-
recognize that it does slam. It actually really does slam
It
quite hard.
does.
I mean, is it something that the company that owns the container, we should reach out to and make sure that it's functioning correctly, and maybe there's not a correction to it, that they've had that same issue somewhere else?
All of them do it, all of the bins.
And they're all like that, because it pushes, the door opens,
Yeah.
And the metal part that's right here, which I never put my hand there, so I don't understand why somebody would. Because you push the bag in, and the person had to have put their hand down here, and then the door swung back and caught her fingers.
It's a
That is
heavy
the only
spring.
way.
But they also write the coffee cups are, contents are hot on the inside too, so I'm just saying, if there's
Right.
something we could do,
I
maybe we
think-
should try to do it.
I
We
think
need like a
there
pinch
is
point
something
sticker.
on the bin.
Yeah.
I just know not to do that, so I don't do it. But,
Chris found a sticker online for pinch point, like an OSHA type sticker.
okay.
Place on the thing there, and he's supposed to send where he found that, so we can order them. Actually put it right there in the bin. This is a pinch point, so.
Could we, will you talk to him about that, Gil?
Yeah, he was gonna give us the information, he hasn't given it to me yet, so maybe he did, and I don't know, but,
Okay.
there's something, because they all do, there's millions of them things around, they all work the same way.
They all
so-
do. The one that was at the Indian Head was different. You pulled it down,
Yeah.
and then you put the bag on top, and it went in, which is
Like
better.
a
People
mailbox.
won't pinch themselves, but the way the others are made,
Yeah.
I just can't imagine why you would put your hand there.
Whose containers are those?
Big brother,
Big
big
brother.
sister.
And they don't have anything revised, we don't know that? Should we at least ask the question? Where
We can.
it was a complaint that someone potentially got hurt? I mean, I don't know, I don't think that's too off the charts.
No.
We'll check it out.
Yep.
Maybe they
Let's
have new
give them a
bins,
call.
or maybe they have replacement doors that they put on them or something that, because of that issue, who knows?
Okay. All right. Oh, I had RDP funds on here,
Oh, for talking about,
recycling.
yeah.
I know when we had begun looking at the transfer station shortly after May, when I came on board, we had done the outline and the plan for things we were gonna tackle, and there was talk of the RDP funds being attended to. I think it's kind of fallen through the cracks, so anyone have any ideas how we can revisit that? I would like Chris to be a part of that conversation. In part, I do think he has good ideas, and he is, like I've said before, boots on the ground. So I don't know if it's a matter of having him come to a meeting and spend 15 minutes talking with us about his suggestions, or having him email us his suggestions, but
We need to look at what we can spend the money on and what we have.
yeah,
That
that,
way.
they gave us that great form that outlines it
Okay.
pretty clearly.
And then
I
we're,
strongly suggest we have to do something
Prioritize.
before March.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Before March, we have to definitely do something with that money, otherwise we could be.
we won't get
jeopardy.
any more.
But it's easier, I mean, there's things we need to do up there, so I don't think there's a problem.
I guess I just want to be strategic and do a brainstorm of people's ideas on what we could use the funds for, based on that, I know you have
Oh,
the
the
sheet.
needs list, yes.
The needs list, do you have that sheet? There's
I
a,
don't have it on me now.
I can send it.
okay.
Because I had gotten a revised copy from what you had.
What,
I
you can
just
use the
send it to-
RDP money for?
Yes, the updated.
Yeah, I think anytime that we're gonna, the actual operations of the transfer station, I think it's beneficial to have input from the employees that
I
work
know.
up there. I mean, it's easy
Needs
for
to
us
be
to
flat.
sit here and
Kevin.
talk about it, but I think I agree with you 100%.
But if we have that list along with the list of the needs, then we
Yeah.
can match what we can.
So, Gil, is it reasonable for him to come to our next meeting time-wise? Like, even if we started with him?
He got
Yeah,
off
I
at
mean,
5.
It's up at 5? Oh, okay.
So you can come
Then
at 5.
maybe at the end, yeah.
At the end of something, yeah.
Let's have that happen next meeting on the 7th. Specifically to talk about, oh, sorry.
She's waving. at
So,
us.
make sure he's coming on his own time, because we don't have money in the budget to pay him to come to a meeting.
He gets off at 5, though, right?
Right.
4:45.
4:45, yeah.
And John will be there.
Yeah.
So,
So we would have to make sure if he came, that he was done by 5. Because he gets paid till 5, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
let's have
Just something to think about.
4:15.
Then leave John by himself.
He's fine by himself.
I think there's
He probably is.
Yeah, I mean, I was up there the other day.
On Tuesdays are not bad.
Chris was at the
Tuesdays are
hardware
not bad.
store and John was working. It was short periods of
Yeah.
time. It'll be the very end of the,
End of the day.
yeah. Okay.
Just made me think of something else, but I don't know what it was now.
Okay. And so we'll brainstorm RDP use. I know he has ideas as well, so. Okay. I think that's the end of my list.
That's the end, that's all? Okay, at the transfer station, can I take over a little bit now?
Are you doing your report now?
Not yet.
Oh, okay, transfer station, all right.
Well, it's part of my report too.
Well, just-
We lost power there for a few days, and it was very difficult getting National Grid there. And through about 12 phone calls, finally we made it through with National Grid Engineering. They replaced the fuses that were on that pole. The pole that's out in the street got hit a couple of years ago, and got replaced with a new one. And what causes the power to go out there, the power lines are swinging when the wind blows hard. Spoke to engineering, they sent somebody out to look at it, so what they're gonna do is kick a pole at the street maybe, and then tighten up all the lines and possibly put a couple more guidelines in the middle pole that was up there. The lines are swinging together and touching each other and blowing the fuses out at the street. So it was very hard to get through engineering because the place doesn't really have an address in National Grid's database, especially in engineering. So we had to have the assessors send National Grid a thing there giving the address to them.
The address of the transfer station?
Yes. It's the assessors that do it to National Grid, that's how they work. So
I
Lee did that the
understand.
other day, and Lee called me yesterday, they finally got a response from National Grid. Now they have the address, they'll try to fix the situation within the next 30 days. So, and it was, I mean, we had National Grid people stopping there that Saturday, where they were waited for them. And, you know, they had a couple of people stop by, but no one ever came out to actually do the fuses. And all they had to do is the fuses. It will happen again, and when, you know, anything over 20 miles an hour, they will swing together and blow the fuses, so hopefully that's gonna be squared away in the next 30 days, so.
So that's good.
So,
All right.
but I guess that was part of the report here, that, you know, we've had a few issues going on. National Grid is the main problem. Just trying to get them there, like I say, it was really crazy. For this week now, as far as the report, you know, the Shaw system really getting.
Is this your report? Your report, Gil?
Yeah,
Or transfer station stuff?
Because I know that they might have to leave.
I mean, I'm not set,
Because
There's a
the
clock
agent's
there.
report is usually down a little further, that was why I'm asking.
Oh.
If we have people that have to leave.
well, I mean, if you wanna do that, though.
I'm fine with that. All right, so shared services agreement. I would like a moment to go through some of my thoughts. I had an opportunity after last meeting, which for anyone who listened to it, it was particularly uncomfortable for me, and left me with lots of feelings that I needed to let subside so that I could organize my thoughts. And I've done that since that meeting, and I think I'd like a moment to go through some context for my opposition to the shared services agreement here in Hanson, and then some of my concerns about the actual contracts. So contextually, the rollout of the shared services agreement to us here in Hanson really, in my opinion, has been wrought with some irresponsible statements, some mistruths, and intense pressure on multiple occasions, including what I called last meeting a bit of an ambush. I want to be clear that when this was put in front of me for the first time, it was put on an agenda, and we were told we were to vote on it, and we had no knowledge, no paperwork. And at that time, I had asked that we table it so that we could research it, review what we were being asked to vote on, and come prepared to vote with knowledge of what it meant for the town of Hanson. I spent about an hour on the phone with Mr. Hugo after that with a variety of questions, and I reviewed the documents that were provided. The one document that was provided that I was told we needed to vote on had two check marks. One was to cooperate with the shared service agreement lead municipality. I offered my no vote because I felt like I couldn't be clear enough. I couldn't get clear definitions around what cooperating meant. Subsequent to that no vote, I learned that Mr. Hugo was coming back on the 20th, not through our entities here in Hanson, but through people who are at another Board of Health meeting. So I was able to be somewhat prepared for revisiting the topic. But I wasn't prepared for Mr. Hugo to be here with a presentation specifically targeting me. I have to say that throughout this process, I have asked many questions, and much of what I've received in terms of answers to those questions have not been in line with the information that I have then gone and sought on my own. In fact, sometimes it's just the blatant opposite that I find. Contextually, there were some significantly hyperbolic comments, or was a hyperbolic comment made at the meeting last meeting on the 20th that, as a Hanson citizen, I find very disturbing. And that was the comment that, quote, people are dying in Hanson. So of course, as a member of this board, I think it's a public health issue that I don't have any knowledge of, and I ask questions and I dig into it. And I find that that context is greatly exaggerated. It was reference to a very tragic situation here in Hanson that the Board of Health would have had very little control over as a major public health issue. I want to be clear, when we make comments like that, and there isn't context, it suggests that the Board of Health is responsible for things for everything that happens to people in Hanson, and particularly deaths. And that's just not the case. I thought that was just extremely irresponsible on the 20th. And I really thought long and hard about that and was quite disturbed by it. And it was directed at me, so. Also, contextually, we have a private sector here in Massachusetts that's ripe with services, VNA services, covered by Medicare and Medicaid, case management, and state level reporting for situations that are dire. And these types of services that are in place lead families and individuals to other services that can help them with whatever it is that they might need. I also want to put out there contextually that I read the blueprint, which is, I don't know if you've read it, the blueprint for this grant, but it talks about the dire public health needs of Massachusetts. So I decided to dig in. And what I found was Massachusetts is rated #2 in public health in the country, according to some very reliable sources, America's Health Annual Report. And the U.S. News and World Report ranks Massachusetts #4 in public health on a combined scale of infant mortality, mental health, obesity, smoking, and suicide. So we're doing something right here in Massachusetts without this massive expenditure in tax dollars. On to the contract itself. And I am referencing the IMA, the MOU, and the one-page document that is the first thing we're supposed to sign saying we're in. So as I mentioned, the first document that we're to sign has one item that I have major issue with, and it says, cooperate with the lead municipality to ensure compliance with the scope of services for this program. I let Mr. Hugo know that I wasn't comfortable with this vague language, and that I believed it's irresponsible to sign any contract with wide berth and with loophole, what I call loophole language. When I asked specifically what cooperate meant, I was told it's just the financial reporting. Well, if that's the case, then why are we not able to define it as such on the documents that we're being asked to sign? If that's all it is. And I was told that it's so we can expand. We can expand if we need to. Additionally, on number 6A of the IMA, it states that each municipality will work in good faith with the collaboratives, health agents, nurses, and any other employees brought on. So, in good faith, what if we don't support an effort? Is that still acting in good faith? What if a nurse wants to mandate masks and Hanson disagrees? Is that acting in good faith? Is there anything, if there's anything that I've learned to date about loopholes, they can be devastating for individuals, families, and businesses. And I can't support any type of language that is as vague as that document we were asked to vote on. I also wanted to do my due diligence. There's a lot of talk about how this will bring a public health nurse to Hanson. Interestingly, we have a line in our budget for a nurse that we don't use. I asked around here in town hall, and I understand that a public health nurse on an average week, so not a pandemic week, we would need a nurse for about 3 hours of data entry. I have a hard time understanding the role day-to-day of a public health nurse in Hanson, but I am absolutely open to hearing what that job responsibility would be, specifically for Hanson. The language in the IMA suggests that one member of the Board of Health or the health agent will need to be the liaison to the collaborative. I spoke in the last meeting on the 20th that I would absolutely not be comfortable with either the health agent, not Gil specifically, any health agent or any board member, including myself, having carte blanche authority to vote at the collaborative without the rest of the board having a weigh in. I imagine, as I thought about this, that requires policy on how that would all work. So who develops that policy? Do we as a board develop policy? Does the collaborative develop policy on how the boards of health handle that? I am curious, because I see that as a significant problem that we would run into almost immediately. I'm also not convinced that our health agent's job in Hanson can't be made more efficient to eliminate some of our expenditures on vendors and bring some money back to our budget, which would, for example, if we had less need for outside inspectors for food, we could further fund a public health nurse. I want to know why we're lumped in with towns that are not similar to Hanson. In my opinion, this puts Hanson at a severe disadvantage. We're a small rural town, and our infrastructure, business sector are a fraction of each of the other towns. Why does the shared service coordinator not live in the collaborative anymore? And I've heard a lot of rumors. I don't want to go with rumors. I was told last meeting, Mr. Hugo said that Zoom is sufficient. I disagree. I want someone here someone who's leading this to be living in the towns and knowing what's going on firsthand. When I mentioned last meeting that I found language in the IMA that gave Marshfield the deciding vote, Mr. Hugo didn't have knowledge of that. We were told that every municipality had one vote and that a consensus was required. I comes to find out Marshfield actually has 2 votes, and the gentleman who doesn't live in this state, who lives in Connecticut, is that deciding vote. That's problematic for me. I asked about the opt-out process. Actually, I think Mr. Perkins asked about it initially. And I was told by Mr. Hugo that it was a 90-day written notice. When I looked over the IMA myself, it requires the majority of the select board, the majority of the Board of Health, and the support of the advisory board. You can see number 12 on the IMA. And this was also something that Mr. Hugo was not aware of when I brought up the discrepancy. So, how much time is this really funded for? I've been told 9 years, I've been told 5 years. Then I look at number 7 on the IMA and it states, and I quote, "Initially, these services are funded by a 3-year grant. It is intended that funds will be sought to sustain these services, but if unsuccessful, participating municipalities will revisit this agreement and determine whether they will allocate municipal funds to continue," end quote. This is another inconsistency between the data provided by Mr. Hugo in our conversations and my own review of these contracts. You can see why I'm skeptical. The opt-in process. So one of the questions that we asked in our inquiries was, what if we decide not now? Maybe later, down the road, after we see how this plays out. I was told, nope, it has to be now. We've gotten a lot of pressure to vote and re-vote. And I go to number 11 on the IMA, and it says that municipalities can petition the collaborative to join. So my question is, which one is it? Is it now? Is it never? Is it a petition? Lastly, and perhaps most concerning, Mr. Hugo let us know at near the conclusion of the 12/20 meeting that, quote, "We are seeking compliance, not punishment," end quote. I know I've watched a request for compliance play out over the last couple of years. It's been comply or lose your job, comply or you can't go to school, comply or you can't enter the military. That statement underscores why I have great hesitance about Hanson joining this collaborative. I think shared services are great on the surface, they sound good, but as soon as I started digging and I saw these intentional vagaries, the loopholes, couple that with the intensity and the pressure and the inconsistencies, I really can't see how I could vote in good faith on behalf of the Hanson citizens. Thank you for listening to me. Sorry it took so long.
That was good.
I'm happy to thank you very much for your thoughtful comments and the research that you did. I just would like to clarify a couple of things. Number one, and I'm not speaking for Mr. Hugo, I'm speaking as Executive Director of the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards and its Senior Staff Attorney. My organization has a contract with the Department of Public Health to provide legal education and technical assistance to boards of health. We also have a contract with the Department of Public Health to assist in to help operationalize public health excellence grants for those municipalities that want to participate in those grants. We have no authorship over the RFP that was done by the Department of Public Health. We have no authorship over the requirements in the RFP. The only thing we have the ability to do, or the authority to do, is to facilitate the creation of these for municipalities that want to be involved. Now, I understand, and I don't know how this happened, but it clearly did happen, that the IMA draft that was given to you is a template for a potential agreement between municipalities. It's not the first and last. If some of your concerns, Ms. Chair, are concerns that your board has, the IMA can be written in any which way that you want it to be written. What's in numbers, all of these numbers can be rewritten in a way that makes all municipalities comfortable. Now, that doesn't, I mean, obviously, if you don't want to join, you don't want to join, but and that's your prerogative, it's Hanson's prerogative. But I just hope that the wording in this template isn't what's leading you to think that Hanson would be somehow minimalized as a participant in this. Because the purpose behind, while we do have very good health status in Massachusetts, And we do have some really good public health strategies, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. Our infrastructure is severely lacking. And if you talk with anyone at the National Association, at NACCHO or NALBO or any of the national associations for public health, they will, every single one of them will tell you that the way our system is structured with 351 local boards of health, all of whom have the exact same responsibilities, statutory and regulatory responsibilities, but who do not have the same resources. And, your budget discussion, everyone has but no one has all the money that they want, or, we always have to do better with less. I mean, that's what happens. But that ended up providing a very inequitable delivery of public health services in Massachusetts. And it's not just about Hanson, it's about the entire state. And COVID really put that on the map for the state legislature. They saw the inequities in how folks were getting services during COVID. Testing, just getting access to to whatever it was, that it was not the same throughout the state. And some of that is what we want as Massachusetts. Paul Revere was the first director of public health. We pride ourselves on home rule. But when that affects the public health differently in different parts of the state, the legislature saw that and saw a need to look at that and try to address that in some way, shape, or form. And one of the things they did was they started investing in public health. We never had a line item before. The health department isn't on a cherry sheet. There was no direct money going to public health until very recently. I think it was FY19, or it was before COVID that this started. And the way it started was the legislature passed a law that enabled the Department of Public Health to award these public health excellence grants. And the purpose behind them was to encourage the sharing of services, because we knew we weren't all meeting the statutory and regulatory obligations that we had, and to try to find a way to lift that up so that every municipality had, if not the same, but we worked toward getting everyone the same amount of services. So that's the model that the Department of Public Health created, and the legislature has been funding it. Right now, the line item is at 15 million. And then it's very understandable that one would be confused, because we have money coming in through the American Recovery Act, we have money coming in through the line item, and we have money coming through a new CDC contract. So there's different sources of funding for local public health. So this is not up to me. And unfortunately, I was not involved at the beginning. I had delegated my staff to do this work, and he has done a Herculean job in most cases in coordinating and facilitating these groups. This area of the state has been particularly challenging, not just with PHE, the Public Health Excellence Grants, with tobacco collaboratives, with other forms of sharing services. It's just there's sort of a different culture here, and that's the way it is. That's one of the beauties of having 351 municipalities,
Right.
that there is a different culture in many different areas of the state. And believe me, I've been doing this now for 25 years. I've been to all of them. So I know there are some similarities, and then there are some real differences.
Yeah.
So again, I am the first one to support and advocate for your legal authority as a Board of Health. And your legal authority is what's important here. Nothing else really is important here, but your legal authority to make this decision. The the Department of Public Health actually created a new office called the Office of Local and Regional Health to help support boards of health through, trying to get boards of health that wanted to be able to meet their regulatory and statutory obligations, which we aren't doing now. And that's what the blueprint is about. It's not about the fact that we don't have some really creative, proactive policies going on and we don't have good health outcomes. My goodness, we have the most sophisticated academic and medical institutions in the nation. That's not the issue. The issue for the commission, which was comprised of, it was bipartisan, the Mass Taxpayers Association was on it, the Hospital Association. The purpose of the commission was try to figure out a way to fix the infrastructure. That was the purpose behind it. And these public health excellence grants was the state and the legislature's way of trying to operationalize that. So it's unfortunate that it's come to this point. And I think, I just think it's unfortunate, but I understand why you feel the way you do. I would just say I personally hope it's not because of an agreement, a contract that you think exists, because one doesn't exist. There is the shared service coordinator that exists now. If this were to go forward with Hanson, Hanson would have just as many rights as any other municipality, including the lead municipality. And that can be spelled out. If this does not meet your requirements, it can be changed any which way that you want it, as long as you can meet the scope of services, which is something that the advisory board, of which Hanson would be a member, would determine. What is the scope of service that we want? And you're right, potentially you could join at a later point. What Mr. Hugo was saying was, in order to receive the full benefit with the capacity assessment piece, that would have to be done now.
Sure.
So, and the capacity assessment piece is, he was, and he and I speak differently. We do a lot of things differently, but we're on the same page when it comes to the I wouldn't say that, when it comes to the assistance that we think these public health excellence grants can give a community, if they want them, they could give them. And we're on the same page along those lines. But I would hate for you to shoot the messenger because you didn't like how the message was delivered, if you're interested in pursuing this. Now, I think we did mention to you at our last meeting that I have hired as the executive director, an attorney, a municipal attorney who has worked with us on these agreements. And when he became aware of the fact that so many of these grantees had really tried to push this forward by hiring people before IMAs have been executed, before you even have an agreement, that, he is pushing back on that, and we are in the point right now where we're trying to work on these agreements. So I'm not trying to sell this to you, believe me. I just want to make the record clear that while the message may have been delivered in a way that was not acceptable, the purpose in delivering the message was to help Hanson, not to hurt Hanson.
Thank you.
I wasn't here for the last meeting, but I did listen to it. It did seem pretty intense and just kind of singled out. I have a lot of respect for Melissa kind of sitting through that. I know that I had some concerns too at the previous meeting, but so just to touch on a few things, Melissa kind of hit a lot of my points and questions that I had, but you had just mentioned, so the IMIA draft, you're saying that we just received a draft, that's not necessarily the agreement?
Correct.
So are we supposed to, I'm just confused with, typically you have an agreement before you sign up for something.
Correct.
So how would we sign up for something before an agreement is in place, and then other towns, do they have an agreement already?
No, this collaborative does not have an IMA in effect now. It does not have an agreement. It does not even have a memorandum of understanding. It does not even have the letter of commitment, which is the first thing that is required that Melissa mentioned. That letter of a commitment to attempt to work together. We don't even have that.
Are the IMAs and the MOUs done collaboratively through the group?
They're done through the group. The group has to agree with the IMA. And I agree with you, Madam Chair, that you don't, one representative shouldn't be voting on something unless that representative has gone back, especially if it's an agent.
Right.
Because the agent only has the authority that the board delegates to that agent.
But my question is, so you have different coalitions and you have different agreements?
Collaboratives,
So if you-
different
collaborative,
agreements,
I'm sorry.
different collaboratives.
So you have this collaborative, and they have completely different agreements?
Yep, because
Amongst
one
themselves.
might want to share a public health nurse.
Mhm.
One might want to share a restaurant inspector. One might want to share both. One might want to share an epidemiologist. I mean, it depends on what the needs are, and that capacity assessment helps determine the needs. And that's why Mr. Hugo was trying to, and push is a bad word, but that's obviously how it turned out. He was trying to encourage you to jump on there so that the capacity assessment of Hanson would come in to the collaborative from the beginning.
And so that you could be part at the table at the time that the IMA is drawn up, because that's going to be vetted by 5 different town councils at whatever the hourly rate is for a lot of money. It's going to be going to the grant. The grant pays for that. So the importance was to get you guys in before that. And I will tell you that on January 5th at 1:22 p.m., 5 days ago, that was when, for the first time, I sent templates to this group officially.
So, but they got them somewhere else. I mean, that's
No,
big
but I'm
deal.
just saying that's, this group hadn't even asked for templates until 5 days ago.
Yeah.
And there are groups that still haven't, and there are groups that have signed them at this point. And not only a difference in the IMA, but some groups aren't using an IMA, they're using a memorandum of understanding, which is looser, and we're encouraging IMAs. But MOUs are an understanding between your health directors and your board members of each of the boards that this is what we want to do without invoking the Board of Selectmen or the town administrator or manager, whatever you have here. They're not brought into that particular loop, although your town council will review the
Yeah, I don't
document.
recommend.
And we're not
the
recommending
select
one.
So that's just really for the group as how the group's gonna operate, but what about the whole opting out process and things of that nature?
That you can negotiate that.
How
That's
can you,
up to you.
how can one group negotiate
No,
something that another?
No, I'm sorry, I don't mean Hanson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the group would determine how you want to opt out. Now, we have an IMA that's been in existence for about 20 years now in Western Mass, where they have a 25-year contract.
Mhm.
It's just, talk about an adhesion contract.
To opt out.
Hmm?
To opt out, how many years?
25. It's absurd. So we took some lessons learned, but again, I'm not here to convince you. I just wanted to clarify what our role was supposed to be
Yeah.
and why Mike was being so aggressive. This is the 4th round of these grants.
My questions are more, I mean, I'm a contractor, I have a background in real estate and investments and whatnot, and my concern is just that, how is this so open? We're being asked to sign up for something that's so open-ended.
Well,
That I just like, that's a big red flag to me and a
And
concern. I mean,
that's-
I
if
don't
you're not
sign
happy with
on the
it-
bottom of something until it's a finalized contract, you know what I'm saying?
And if that's the way, your standard operating procedure is and you don't want to be a part of this, that's perfect, that's your
Yeah.
prerogative.
But to sit down at the table when they,
You can sit down at the table and then walk away. All you have to
Right.
sign is the letter of
right, you
intent,
sign that letter of.
or a commitment, whatever
The
the.
letter of commitment,
letter
it's
is
called. If you sign that, you're at the table while
But
they
you don't have to
negotiate.
sign.
And if you don't like the contract, you say, here's our 3 months' notice and we're not showing up for anything else.
You don't even need
not
a 3 months
but it's-
notice, though.
it's
You don't
not.
need a 3 months notice because you haven't
What do you
signed the
signed an
IMA.
agreement to create the
Where,
document that says
where
that.
is it telling me 3 months notice?
No, it's not.
Template.
He used
That's
that,
the
that was
template, whatever it
incorrect.
is.
That is what is proposed in the template to get out.
So
If
maybe
you
to clarify, this is the one page that we voted, we already
Not to
voted
sign.
no.
Right.
No, but we voted not to sign, yeah. I
Yes,
think, I think it's just maybe the way I
That is,
printed it,
no,
sorry.
that's it.
So let's just be hypothetical, say we voted to sign this. You know, my initial concern exists, continues to persist here, that
Well,
it's cooperate.
And I can explain, I think I can explain that to you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So then as I'm hearing what you're saying, that I have drafts of an MOU, I have drafts of an IMA that have a lot of language that like would be problematic for me. So then we sign this, one of our delegates, whoever we delegate, sits down at the table with the other 4.
Yeah.
How many are
it's
it altogether?
five.
Is it 5
I think it's
altogether?
5 now.
It's
yeah.
5.
Okay.
So
So
the,
Hanson would be 6?
I can look at it.
Okay.
no, I think we would be the 5th. So we would be the 5th, we'd sit down with the 4 other towns, and then we would probably work off of these drafts because.
Yeah, you
we're-
would start there.
And if we couldn't come to something that we felt was fairly negotiated or we were comfortable with, we could say, okay, well, we want to back out of this.
Yeah. You haven't, yeah.
So,
Yes, I mean, this is a letter of commitment, and I think if you read it, the requirements are to cooperate. And I will tell you what my understanding, can you just read me the language, because I don't have that right in front
it's
of me.
cooperate with the lead municipality agency to ensure compliance with the scope of services for the Public Health Excellence Grant Program for Shared Services.
Okay, so that says, once the agreement is worked out between the 5 municipalities, you agree that you will abide by that agreement, unless you want to opt out, and then you get out. So it's whatever the scope of services is that the collaborative agrees to. So that's you have to agree with what you agreed to. That, it sounds a silly way of putting it, but that's the way, that's what that means, to cooperate, is to cooperate with whatever scope of services the collaborative determines that the collaborative needs and
But the
wants.
collaborative would come up with that, and then you
The
would vet
collaborative,
it
which
by town
means
council.
Hanson, the 5 municipalities come up with it.
It's
Right.
6.
And
It's-
Six.
say that's
What's
six.
the
I'll just tell you, just so you know, it's
We never
it's
remember.
Hanover, Hanson, Marshfield, Norwell, Pembroke, and Rutland.
Norwell was
No, I
added.
never remember.
Norwell's not
But
added.
then the group would come up with this agreement, and then
Yes.
they would take it back to their town council.
Yes, the town council would review them.
Well,
Your town council has already reviewed it.
I mean, a town council is great. All town council tells us is that it's legal. We're not getting into something. It doesn't mean that I agree with what's
No,
legal.
it's just that it's a valid contract that protects Hanson. That's what town council is there for, to protect the municipality.
And I think it was mentioned at the last meeting on the 20th that town council had reviewed these documents?
You have KP Law, they have reviewed several.
So the
of these
law firm
agreements.
has, not town council for Hanson.
I
No,
thought
just
it
the
was-
law firm
Okay, I-
in general.
No.
Okay,
They have,
all
because
right.
there's
I thought it
nothing,
was mentioned that town council, I thought it was specific that town council had reviewed this.
they
Your
have
town
reviewed the
council is
template.
KP Law, and KP Law has.
Has reviewed
this.
it.
They have reviewed the
Several-
template for other municipalities
Okay.
that are
Not for
further
Hanson.
along.
And made changes, too.
And they've made some changes. But they haven't reviewed it for Hanson because there's nothing to review for Hanson because it hasn't been created. This is a template only. It's like when we come down and give you a template, although I don't think we've done it at Hanson, for tobacco sales regulations. That's a template, and it usually has a checklist in the front, and the board looks and, nope, don't like this, don't like this, don't like this, like this. Okay, can we change this to this? And then something is drafted specific for that specific municipality. So KP Law has reviewed it for other of their clients, not for Hanson.
So I guess the way to put it was they're familiar with the document.
They're familiar with it and they have edited it somewhat, but they've stuck pretty much with with what's in here. They've stuck with, they're comfortable with what's in here. What the issue that a lot of them want to look at is, a lot of municipal attorneys look at is like the liability insurance issue. You know, who's going to do that if you're working in one town versus another. But that's really the only questions that we've had, and town councils write it whatever way they think makes the most sense for their town.
And the same law firm reviewing for Hanson may have reviewed for Plymouth.
Sure.
In fact, they are Plymouth. And they may come up with something for Hanson's that they're okay with for Plymouth, but they're not okay with here. That's how, that's
And
how
that
they will protect
happens
you.
sometimes, especially with liability insurance,
Right.
because the larger towns have a different, a different way of looking at liability issues than smaller towns do. It's more important that smaller towns be protected, and the same thing comes with employees and so forth. So that's all I've got. And it's your decision, you're the board, and yes, you can join at a later point. You just won't have the advantage of having had a capacity assessment done for Hanson. So that's my story.
Are there any other groups that had towns join on after the fact?
Not yet.
No.
Oh,
No,
wait,
that's
wait,
not right.
in previous rounds, not in round 4.
Right.
And
'cause
how
this
did
is too
and how
long.
did that process go? I mean, is there a maximum number of towns that you can have in a group?
I did one today. I did one
You
today.
added
I
on a
took-
town today?
I took the town of Dracut, and I took them out of the Lawrence group, and I put them into a different group. So
And that was pretty streamlined. It's not a big.
it's done. It took me one phone call to their director, and then one phone call, or actually an email to DPH saying switch them.
And
it's done.
is there an IMA yet?
No, not yet.
So they switched, so it's not exactly what you're asking.
Mhm.
You asked
Oh,
if
after
any
an
had
IMA has
opt
been done?
in after.
Well,
the
that
previous-
was important information that I like to
After
hear
an IMA is
also. But
done, no, the answer is, I don't believe that there is.
That anyone has come in.
There's only
We
3
do
or 4
have it, they
IMAs.
have come in to tobacco control collaboratives. We have situations there where a town has wanted to opt in. The question is, will the collaborative want you to opt in if they're not getting any more money from the Department of Public Health for that municipality? So that comes into play. And you're right about the 9 years, 3 years. It's a 3-year automatically renewable contract, subject to appropriation. Everything is subject to appropriation by the legislature. However, in this case, the legislature has made it clear that this is a line item. Now, I know the legislators can change, but they've made it clear that this is a line item that's staying.
Why are we with, and this is one of my questions, why are we with towns that are, I mean, the business infrastructure of the other now 5 towns? Norwell was not on my original list, by the way.
It probably wasn't.
I was going to ask that, the population of the towns compared to.
Which is not even, we just aren't similar at all. I mean,
Yeah.
Marshfield is a vacation community, they have
But
people
is it
coming in from
regional?
all over
Yeah,
the
yeah, they
place.
do, and this happens. It happens especially in areas that have large urban areas, like Worcester, for example. They have some rural municipalities in with them, and they don't look anything like
No.
the suburbs or the rural areas there. So what ends up happening is when you do the capacity assessments, some of the municipalities are going to be more needy than others. When it comes to how much money needs to go and where the services need to go. And that everyone agrees to that at the beginning. My town is in a collaborative where one of our towns really needs a lot of restaurant work done because they just haven't had it. So our health director is doing mentoring for the employee that was hired to do restaurant inspections for the whole collaborative, but that employee is spending a lot of time in one of those towns. But that helps build an equitable infrastructure so that all of the adjoining, hopefully adjoining or adjacent, whatever it is, towns are getting the same services. And that's part of the beauty of it in the fact that folks that need more services are getting more, but it's also one of the give and takes for those municipalities that may have more resources, that, you know, right now, the way this collaborative, the thing that the capacity assessment is showing here is that X town hasn't been inspecting restaurants, we need to do that. Further down the road, you know, when we get that situation resolved, then we can look at maybe hiring a community health worker or a mental health advisor or someone that could do more work that might be more relevant in another town. So there's a give and take, and some of the well-resourced towns are not getting the same services as some of the less resourced towns are getting. So Marshfield is the lead, so they get an administrative fee to do that work, to cut the checks and do all of the administrative stuff that goes along with having a grant. But they're not going to get all of the services, because there are other municipalities in that area, in the collaborative, that are
They
going to
already
need.
have some of the existing
Exactly,
services.
that are going to need them more than Marshfield. But Marshfield's getting the admin, and Marshfield at one point, when these collaboratives get funded more richly and hire more folks, then other services that are more proactive are gonna, Marshfield's gonna have the, maybe they'll get an epi that can look at, you know, disease reports and, or, you know, whatever it might be, but something that isn't being done now.
I guess in some ways that makes my point on this topic is that, you know, we could also be at a significant disadvantage if we don't have the needs to the same degree that the other 5 towns do, given how
Yeah.
robust they are compared to Hanson. Now, if you put us next to Plimpton or you put us next to Halifax, now we're looking similar.
Yeah,
it
and that's
seems-
unfortunate, that the way some of these came about was no, it was like watching sausage be made. You know, you want to eat it because it tastes good, but you don't want to know how it was made. So some of these marriages aren't the best,
Right.
necessarily. But we're at the point now where there aren't a lot of options left, and what the department would like to do eventually, with the municipality's permission, is to look at all of these different districts. I mean, you've got your HMCC district, you've got your emergency preparedness one. If you're in a tobacco one, you have
And they're all
one.
different.
Then you'd have this. I mean, and none of, we'd like to get them so that they all make sense, but we can't do that yet. So eventually the goal is to get uniform districts so that everyone that should be playing together is playing together, and that they want to play together. But you're right, it's, right now, it's the best we can do being in round 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it like my practice. At any given time, I have higher crisis folks
Yeah.
who need my attention
Yeah.
more. And I see Hanson probably being my quiet folks who never need me outside of session.
Yeah, I've got those with my
and, you
cities
know-
and towns. I've got 351 of
Yeah,
them.
we have
And-
351 of those.
And, you know, and the ones, this is a public video, but, you know, the ones that are my neediest children's are in very, very rural areas in
Yeah.
Western Mass, pretty much, you know, and so, yeah. So that's it.
I just had a couple things, Melissa. So you had mentioned, I think it was an compensation for administrative for the coordinator of the Weed Town and compensation for the coordinator themselves. I was just curious, so how is that number established and what is it?
Okay, so the state automatically gives 15% of the contract to the host community. And that's so that the host community will be there to do everything, pay the payroll taxes.
Do the payroll, deposit the money,
That's
account for the money.
15% for the annually or for the 3-year
Annual.
contract or what?
It's 15% per year,
Yep.
whatever the contract
Yep,
is for that year.
okay, yep.
And the shared services coordinator is a different entity entirely. That's somebody who's hired.
Mhm.
And that hire was made before you got
And that-
involved. That's, you know, they needed to get someone on board. They couldn't wait any longer. They had an opportunity to get somebody who, I understand your concern. I definitely do.
Yeah.
And I don't, and you and I can have this conversation later if you come in, and I think I can allay your fear, but I do understand it. I'm a shared services coordinator on Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. I live in Framingham. I've been to those islands 3 times. I spent a week there between Christmas and New Year's this year and last year, and I went once at the very beginning to meet with them and tell them about the grant. And they said, you do it. So I do everything by Zoom. William Droheim was the assistant health director in West Tisbury when the grant started. They were one of the original grant holders going back to day one, before the big money, back when it was a $1.7 million grant cycle for all of the grantees. He was the assistant health director in that town. He moved to be the assistant health director in Marshfield. I think I detailed the fact that he had some health issues. So he is actually the most qualified of all of the shared services coordinators because he's certified as a, he is an RS, registered sanitarian. He has all of his qualifications to be a health director in any town, and he couldn't go forward professionally, and so now he's working on this grant, and he's also working on the grant for Barnstable County. They've hired him, so he's a .5 for you, and he's a .5 for them.
So the coordinator, is that a percentage of the contract as well?
No, the
Their
coordinator's a
compensation?
straight salary.
It's a straight salary, and that's set by what?
It's set by
It
you
should be
guys.
set by the collaborative.
It's set by you. We set all of the salaries on the islands. We set those as a group. There's
But these
7
are-
towns, and there were 7 votes on.
So someone's already been hired for this collaborative, and they've already set a salary of a group that
Doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
that doesn't exist, so, like,
And that-
these are things that, like, that I'm
No,
just
no,
very
and that's-
confused
and you-
with.
and you know
You're
what?
right.
I gotta tell you, Kim,
Contract
you're
wise.
absolutely right about that, because that's why.
Like, none of that makes any sense to me
Right.
whatsoever.
That's
It
why
doesn't.
we've retained this municipal attorney to help us get these done, because there's no contract on the islands, and we've been in existence for 2.5 years.
And what that means is that Marshfield is gonna be stuck. If anything happens with that employee, they're stuck, because he's their employee, because they're the
Right.
lead, and they took him on. So there's no liability for you on your part, but if you join and you want a different person, you know, they're gonna have to work that out.
So, the other question I had too was, so with the funding, where this money comes from for this group, is that based off population?
No.
Is that
no,
based off, so just zip code?
No, not at all. It's
Just per collaborative,
it's per collaborative, in fact.
And each collaborative has how many towns?
different
I'm
amounts.
gonna share something with you visually so that you can
Yeah.
just see. This is the spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet
Mm-hmm.
for all of the towns. These are the amounts that the groups get. You can see that they're mostly 300. There's 277,000. There's 299. There's actually some that are only 150,000. There's this many in one group. There's this many in another group. And it just happens to be the round.
So that's my question.
Yeah.
So Cohasset, Hingham, and Hull, that's 3 towns.
Yep,
They're getting $300,000.
round 2.
You have Adams, Beckett.
I think
how
that
many
there's-
towns are in
I
there?
think that there's 24 towns in there.
24 towns is
Well,
getting,
out of the
is
state.
getting
Because they,
$300,000.
because,
They're
because,
tiny.
but it doesn't even matter that
It
they're
doesn't
tiny.
matter.
It doesn't matter that they're tiny. What matters is that when they applied for the grant,
Yeah.
somebody decided, let's bring these 24 towns together and apply for one grant. That happened on the North Shore. There's 6 towns with Newburyport, there's 5 towns with Amesbury, and right now, both of those grant groups are sort of falling apart because of some disagreements. And so they may end up under one grant instead of $600,000 for all those towns, $300,000 for all of those towns.
I
It's a
guess my
$300,000
question more
match.
specifically is just how is that number figured on the disbursement amount?
You know what? Just
You
like
don't
that. No, I do know. It was
Oh.
just like that. Somebody said, let's give $300,000 grants. Let's give 3 rounds of $300,000.
DPH did that,
DPH
based
did
upon the
that.
money that they received from the
They
legislature.
did some quick math on the back of an envelope probably and said.
So they're gonna give $300,000 to this group whether we're in it or not?
Oh, they've already got the
Yes.
money.
Yeah,
have
they
the
already
money.
have the money.
They have 109, they have 100 and, $149,900 as of last week. They've already been funded. With or without you, they've got the money. They're just waiting right now to see if you're coming in or not to do the contract and move forward.
Okay.
But they're totally funded.
And I should, in full disclosure, the purpose is what the blueprint says. It's to require workforce credentialing, to really look at how services are delivered. So, you have to, the agreement is that you will fulfill your statutory and regulatory obligations. And you'll do it with qualified staff. Eventually, everyone, but qualified staff for these collaboratives has to be, they have to meet certain criteria. And some of that can be grandfathered in. If you have staff that you like that doesn't necessarily meet it, you can grandfather staff in if they have experience. But there are some requirements that are meant to increase the qualifications of public health staff.
Having nothing to do with the grant. Either way, if you're
No.
in or not in the grant, that's the.
Those are coming down the road anyway.
That's coming at all of us.
And one of the other question I had too was, so the capacity assessment not being done prior, I think is kind of odd, that what we want to know where
Everyone else
we're.
has done it.
What?
Everyone else has done it that's in this group. That's the
Right,
one
but I'm
that
just
Trevor
saying, like,
said.
for you to come and speak with us, if you had examples saying, look, this is where you're lacking, this is where you're doing good, this is where, but to come in and make general comments is just, it's kind of confusing to me. If you
Okay.
said, hey, look, here's some data right here.
We don't have it yet because it
Well,
hasn't.
and that's
it hasn't
part of
been
the
done.
problem.
No, I understand, and that's why I'm saying that to
Yeah,
me,
and-
that would be done prior to and not
No, because they're
post.
only doing it for those who are in the grant.
Well,
Okay.
but also, when we started this cross-jurisdictional sharing work, and that was about 20 years ago, and more recently, we tried to get data from the Department of Public Health on how many restaurant inspections are done in the state, how many beach inspections, housing. There was no data. We had no baseline
Yep.
data. So part of the initial funding was to help DPH create a system where they start collecting this data. So you're right, we don't have baseline data. That's what this capacity assessment is
Right.
about, is trying to get that baseline data.
The last thing I had was, I know there was mention of obtaining a nurse.
We don't know that.
That's up to the,
That's up to you guys.
Right,
That was
but that
up
was
to
kind of
them.
one of the, I'll call it a selling point, that was kind of one of the main things, that you guys are gonna get a nurse, you need a nurse.
That's
Well,
That-
you do need a nurse, but that's. beside
that's
the
what
point.
most
So-
municipalities want.
Yep, so me as, I'm just an average Joe, I'm a contractor, that's what I do. For me to understand, like, what is the day-to-day, like, what is that nurse gonna do that the town of Hanson is gonna benefit from? Not just like, general statements, they do this, 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 this.
What-
Like, what are they gonna do, like, for the town of Hanson, that I can say, hey, wow, this got done this week?
What percentage of the kids that go, what's your school district? It's Hanson? and-
Whitman Hanson.
Whitman
Well,
Hanson.
just for high school,
What
yeah.
percentage of kids at Whitman Hanson High School have thought about killing themselves? And what percent have actually attempted it? Can you tell me those numbers?
No?
Okay, and this is the Board of Health. This is where you should know those numbers. And those numbers will scare, and you could tell them, you can probably guess what they would be. But in Framingham, it's 28% of the kids have attempted suicide at Framingham High School.
And then it would be also who checks your Maven every day, who reports.
But
So
I don't know if
Who's
Kevin
getting
knows
services
about
for
this.
those
you
kids?
just, you made the statement, and I
Okay.
mean, you do go hyperbolic. You
Okay.
like the shock factor.
Okay,
But
so-
that's an important question, this is an important
So
statement
now,
that you
who is
made.
here to help get services for those kids? That would be a primary duty of a public health nurse, is to make sure that people who are at risk for anything, for homelessness, for depression, for food, for all of that, that can be tracked by your public health nurse, by that function. In Framingham, during COVID, there were public health nurses that were scouring the area looking for people. We have a huge Brazilian population, 30,000 people undocumented in Framingham. And we had nurses that were showing up on the scene in people's houses, and they literally hadn't eaten for a week, and they were sick beyond belief, taken to the hospital.
So from kind of what you just touched on. So it sounds like they're gonna be more statistics.
Well, that, if they're doing epidemiology, yeah, but if they're running a regional clinic for something.
But it's not like this nurse that's covering these 6 towns that's gonna be down at Whitman Hanson High School talking someone off a cliff. They're
Some-
gonna
If
be,
she's trained to do that.
they're gonna have the
If she's trained, right.
stats.
If she's trained.
They're
yeah,
gonna,
okay.
they're gonna
Just
collect
stats.
EPIs, they're gonna collect epidemiology
Yeah,
information.
Okay.
They're gonna run clinics.
They're gonna put the
They're
information
gonna
into
do the
Maven when you have an outbreak or
communicable
something.
disease
Maven.
reporting.
Which we do need
They're
somebody
gonna
to do
do
Maven.
the TB, whatever you need to do.
Because
for
right now,
TB.
we don't have anybody to
They're-
follow up on any of the information that comes out of Maven in
They're
terms
also-
of communicable
I mean,
diseases
I
in the
can
town
give
of
you a list of
Hanson.
other things
The-
that they would do.
The gentleman that was just here, that wanted to open up a body art, do you know whether he's had a TB test?
He also needs a
that's in the
hepatitis B.
regulation. when
And
it
do you
comes
know whether
back.
he's had a hepatitis B? There are state regulations, and that
Yeah.
nurse.
That's actually in our
sitting there-
regulations too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. But there are, and when all else
And then there
fails, you
would
send
be
the nurse out to do public education.
courting issues.
Courting.
Public health nurse would be a good liaison between the council on aging and hoarders, working with the building inspector for housing issues.
We used to have blood pressure clinics a couple times a month up at the senior center
Yeah.
here at Town Hall. And we've not been able to have them. But you still had a question, you had a point. If we can go back.
On,
The statement he made.
on the suicidal comment, yes. So you actually, I think, answered it somewhat when you said it's really about the public health nurse gathering data from the school
That's
rather
right.
than going and
Oh,
providing
knocking
clinical
on the door.
services.
Right. Doing community health surveys.
So why wouldn't that come out of the guidance office where they have, I mean, that's where students go when they are in imminent
Well,
need
there
of school.
should be, you're absolutely right, there should be communication between the guidance office, the nurse, school nurse, and the Board of Health nurse.
Sure.
And then outreach to the municipality, so
Municipality,
you can
right.
make sure the residents
Are
are
aware
aware
of
of
services.
some of these issues that are either happening in
I
the
mean, that's a
schools
fundamental change.
or with seniors.
It's a fundamental change in the delivery of services because that is really private sector service delivery.
And you call the VNA private sector and Medicaid private sector, I would respectfully suggest that
Well,
they are public sector.
I didn't call Medicaid. I didn't call them
Well,
private sector. They might have been lumped in
And
with
I'm
my.
thinking veteran is what I was thinking, not VNA, because you're right, VNA is, well, it's
VNA is
funded,
contracted.
it's contracted, but it's
Contract,
also,
But you can also have private insurance and utilize it.
yeah, you
Right.
can, yeah, but you can get
You
it
can
through
pay out of
Medicaid too.
Sure.
So, in any event, that's
That's our stick.
it. Obviously, you're certainly able to represent Hanson quite well, so. So I'm not
I'm
gonna
gonna take
stick
that
my
as a
nose.
compliment.
It is a compliment. It is. I'm not gonna stick my nose in any further than it already is.
And I'm gonna take my nose out of here. Take it home, I've got a band rehearsal tonight.
That's right.
All right, well, good luck. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you give this back to Teresa?
Uh,
And do you want this to
Kevin.
go to Kevin?
Yep.
And this goes back
For
to
agenda.
Teresa.
And we're gonna be offering a one-day program in March or April in Taunton. It's gonna have that same presentation we saw last time.
With the rest?
Carol, But it's also gonna be on a huge amount of things. A lot of Title V stuff, a lot of the new regulations that you're gonna have to be enforcing on housing, and sort of a preview for you about the new nitrogen regulations that DEP is throwing at everybody that's gonna cost your town millions of dollars that your taxpayers are gonna have to deal with on their own because it's
Right
all
behind the
private
school.
property.
What are they, I had heard, mention of that, so what are they just considering everywhere, basically nitrogen sensitive?
No,
area?
they're actually looking at the Cape first, the Island second, Plymouth County third, and Bristol County fourth. So you're about a year away from them even beginning to look at you, but everybody's gonna have to.
But it's good to know what they're
They're all
gonna
gonna have to
look
retrofit all of their septic systems. And they're gonna have to get,
I just don't see
zero
it.
interest
Paying for that.
loans.
I don't
They
see
are, the property owners are.
Yeah, You have a hard time getting someone to
I know.
upgrade a cesspool. Good luck getting someone to put in a $10,000 aeration
I'm
unit.
testifying
Wow.
against it,
You know?
because I think that it's ridiculous.
On a repair or an
that-
install, but even so, someone's upgrading a failed system and now you're gonna push them to throw another 10 grand in it. It's tough.
Isn't that crazy?
You're stuck in the middle. It's-
And where's our betterment fund?
That's what we do when we're not doing this stuff. We worry about stuff like that.
Other stuff.
All right, it was nice.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have, next meeting on the 7th.
Oh, yes, I came up with dates that I wanted to throw out.
I will
Teresa?
say I'm still in favor
What
of
time do you
shared
want us to
service
leave?
agreement.
No, we don't, they
Thank you,
canceled
Gil.
that meeting.
And we can
Oh,
join at any
okay.
time, Gil.
Well, I think,
can.
and I think it's important, we do have to realize we have to try to get more involved in outreach programs. As you said that yourself, and we have to establish this. I think High Point just got a big grant or something for outreach, so I just plan on contacting them next week or something. They get a big grant, to help homeless and all that stuff, but it's all about elevating ourselves to 2023. We have to,
But
Get
with
to
the with the
2023.
joining later, we don't have the capacity assessment that says what Hanson needs. So we might get something.
It doesn't sound like it
Maybe
matters
not.
to anyone what Hanson needs. It just sounds like they wanted our signature on a piece of paper.
No.
That's all it seemed
No,
like to me.
well, to me, they've been asking the capacity, about the capacity agreement, because it gives them the information they need to look at the services that we need. So I don't know, I don't feel
it's
it
an
was a selling
independent
point.
firm doing the
But
capacity
to
assessment.
have a capacity assessment done and then 5 other towns have to vote to vote in favor of something that we need anyway.
But we
So
would,
why, I
it
think,
would be the group getting together, looking at the capacity agreement and saying, it looks like you need this,
Yeah.
and you need this, and you need that.
I
Maybe I've been
didn't feel
a lot
comfortable with the
longer.
contract end of it. That's
The
where,
contract doesn't exist.
and that's my
It doesn't
concern.
exist, those were all
That's my
templates.
concern.
Which I don't think you
That's
knew
my
that.
issue, is I have never entered, this is a
Mind-boggling.
very, it's backwards process, I guess is my issue with it. It's all backwards. And that's why, at this point, I am much more in favor of, let's sit back, let's see what
See
this
how it
looks
works out
like,
for the other towns.
and we can opt in. And
Yeah.
if,
Absolutely.
like I said, the other 5 towns are so distinctly different than Hanson, that whatever they're doing is going to be services that Hanson can use in some capacity, because what their needs are gonna be so dramatically more and more significant than Hanson.
But I think some of the towns, they already have services that we don't have. That we can't afford to have, which we've never had. Like Pembroke. Pembroke has such a huge
Lost.
restaurant base and business base.
Marshfield,
They
Norwell,
have
they all do.
taxes and stuff and
Still
money
big.
that we're never gonna have to pay for things.
It's
And they
not,
still don't have a nurse.
it's the state legislature.
They, I don't know about their
DPH,
nurse, I know
and
for
then Board of
inspections,
Health.
they have 3 people.
Because we
that
have,
Because
we
they have the
Send it
need
out,
for it.
because they have
I mean, I
need for
think
it.
there are efficiency things that I think we need to put on the agenda to discuss and whatnot, and we can do that, but, yeah, I'm in favor of just, let's see where this goes.
So,
I agree.
dates.
Arlene, go ahead,
Yes.
dates,
February 7th,
okay?
March 7th.
Oh, you're doing the whole year.
Oh, yeah, we're going for
Oh,
growth.
Fort-
Let's know where we're gonna be.
February 7th. Jesus.
I can give you my scribbles. You need them.
February 7th.
April 4th. May 2nd.
I will not be here.
May 2nd?
I'm gonna be, gone from right after town meeting on the 1st, to the middle of the following week.
All right, so let's look at, that was,
February 7th, what was March?
7th.
7th.
So we're looking at May. Okay. So we're looking at May. I gotta find it. Hold on. There we go. Come on.
Did you say April 4th?
I did.
Yes, April.
I did, April 4th. What else looks good? Because the only thing we need to worry about is a holiday.
I can do the 16th, 23rd.
How about the 16th? The 16th? That's probably 6 weeks in between, but that's what it is.
And we'll have town meeting in between too.
Right. June 6th?
That's fine for me. Could we stop there just because then we enter summer months and
Mhm.
I have no idea when I'm not gonna be here. for vacation.
Okay.
So maybe if we could just, well, that's one to be.
We could pencil it and then
5.
change. If you have a conflict, which is not.
I don't know when I'm going away at all.
I'm comfortable with just the next
Okay.
three
If-
months.
It's actually, it's
6
5
months.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to me is more than I want to think ahead.
I just don't know,
No.
I have no idea when I'm gonna be going away this summer.
Okay. Because I try to avoid holidays, and there's a bunch of other stuff in there too.
Yeah. If we can just hold on July, I don't know what.
Yeah, we'll go to May, because you got election anyway.
So
Oh,
we're
that's
May
right.
As a
16th.
board member.
It's a good point.
May 16th. Okay, where are we now? Agent?
All right. Gil, sorry you were interrupted.
Oh, no, I mean, I've got, the National Grid thing and everything, and I've got, we still have some housing issues. I got tomorrow meeting, a bank is taking over a house on Prince Street in Hanson, and I'm gonna meet them there. The sheriff's gonna take it over. They thought somebody was living there, but not. When the house take it, somehow a water pipe broke or something, and and the house is so bad inside, it's unbelievable. You walk inside, you can't even breathe. Kind of tough. So that's took quite a while putting that all together, finding out who actually owned the house. Between starting off and finding out, going to assessors, going to treasure collector, then calling the bank. Probably about 3 or 4 hours involved in this whole thing to get this put through. I mean, it's got rats, it's got a bunch of different items going on during there, and it's amazing how the food rotting in the house and the water leak it had. The place is just ferocious, but it's another house being squared away. We probably have 2 or 3 more houses in town almost like that. This was abandoned. It's not an old house, but that's one of the things.
Oh, that's down Mount Ponce, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
Pretty
So,
congested down there.
yeah, so that's gonna happen tomorrow morning sometime. We've had, like some issues, the big flood on Main Street, how a couple people, commented about that. Most septic system on the 26th, you see that report there, somehow it decided to empty itself out onto Main Street. No reason why. We was out there, looking into it. We kind of figured out. I asked Kevin about this, and we're thinking it's the vacuum effect. That it's once it started the vacuum of the pump starting, it just continued out the vent. So probably about 2,500 gallons of sewage ended up on Main Street.
And where was that?
Moe's Restaurant.
Oh,
So that's a couple other departments have asked about that, so that's why I'm putting it out there. Let me see what else we have here. Phone work, Ling's Asian Food. I've met with them like last week and discussed with them. The building that part of that building is kind of disgusting behind the walls and whatnot. If you drive by there now, the contractor met out there. We discovered a kind of a rat's den at this end of the building. If you drive by, you'll see all the bait boxes. They've got like 6 or 7 around that end of the building, trying to eliminate the situation. And so, this is before they open up. They're doing a pretty decent job renovating, but they got quite a ways to go. They've talked to the landlord. The best thing to do is to concrete all along the bottom of that building on that side. It's a type of stucco, so they've made their way into that. So, let me see what else we got here. That's a couple other boards have. That's about it. We had major. The weekend and on Monday we had a major citation thing happen on the crossing the transfer station. First, people had mentioned it being the transfer station, but it wasn't. They mentioned Brockton had a water leak. The silt came actually out of the the side of Presidential Titanium. It loaded up the catch basins and across the street into the brook. So Frank and I was there Monday, met the people at Presidential Titanium and working on eliminate the situation. They're gonna have to put siltation socks up and stuff, so, because he's got a massive addition going on that. I think it's gotta be like 125 by 80 or something like that.
And that's what's
Back.
caused this shift?
Just because of siltation, because it rained, between the rain and the water and the pumping, so that was squared away, so that is pretty much it. The biggest thing the whole part of last week and the week before was National Grid, trying to get National Grid to, correct the situation there with the power line. So hopefully, Lee said she got an email from them. Now they have the address. It'll take like 30 days to do that. What else here? Okay, Cushing Trails is gonna work the winter in one where they want to install all the systems while the weather's warm. So that's gonna move on, along with, Shaw's, that's gonna keep going. Price tag on this jumped to 1.2 million now so far.
So what's going on at Shaw's that requires you to be there every day?
3 times a week possibly. There's a lot of inspections between the engineer and myself. We've had them take out pipes. They've had to remove stone because the stone's not acceptable to me or the engineer. There's dewatering issues that involves me, the conservation agent, the engineer, and the contractor. Been out there because of siltation. Siltation's a big thing. They put it down the drain, and we've had issues with a wetlands area there. They tried pumping through wetlands area. Frank stopped them. So myself, maybe 10, 15 minutes, 3 days a week, meeting with the engineer. The engineer's there at least 4 days a week. It's a massive project, $1.2 million, and you got to be careful. I mean, there's a tank. They're epoxying a tank. A company's in there relining a tank, and as far as what they're doing and the epoxy they're using and how they're doing, it's very important. It's all part of the construction, Board of Health, conservation. It's a big project. It's probably one of the biggest septic systems in the state right now.
And how long is it gonna take?
Another 2 months maybe. The whole project's gonna be like 5 months altogether. If it gets cold, it's gonna be even longer. It's gonna take probably a day and a half just to test the situation. If you could drive by there, that field, you see all those pipes sticking up. Well, those pipes sticking up, the effluent, once they pump to those systems, has to reach a certain height. And people have to be out there with tape measures, measuring to ensure that the effluent is up that high for equal distribution of the effluent. So it's quite the project. It's not, it's interesting. I've only seen one project like that, and it was a little bit smaller. But it's alternating large fields, pump chambers, 2 grease traps. Another grease trap's going to be installed. Another septic tank's going to be installed. Septic grease trap filters. They're going to have that, and then they're going to have the BioClear treatment units. So it's pretty interesting. It's intense. Very intense.
It seems like when it was first done, it really wasn't done correctly to handle.
What happened the first time it was redone, what caused it this time to fail was it was pumped and a contractor knocked off the T of the grease trap, and the grease got pumped directly into the field, destroyed the field. So.
As I walked up and down the street for many days trying to find where the smell was coming from.
Conservation's got a lot of issues there. He's there probably as much as I am because of siltation. They've got a 30-foot hole. The hole's 30 feet deep, probably 30,000 gallons of water that's moving. So it's monitoring because and it's got to be done right. The engineer's there, but the contractors are there. The engineer's watching the contractors, and we're watching everything overall. I know I think Station Land is going to start pretty soon. I guess he wants to do the system there first, which I haven't really talked to him about that one. So, and then Brookside, he's going to start. Suppose they're going to tear that building down next week. So, there's a lot of projects happening in Hanson right now. So,
I'd like to take a field trip to Shaw's.
yeah,
With you.
it's interesting.
Boots. Bring the boots, okay.
Yeah.
I have a pair of muck boots, I'll bring those
Bring
along.
them up.
Well, I don't like walking in mud too much, but you Yeah, you wear shoes that have a, decent sole.
You have a horse? No, how many people I know have muck boots or people that have horses? But you need.
Plus, the system
Going
is
on
so
that field
spread
trip.
out. This system's so spread out, like I've talked to, Jim, review engineer, coming out and, reviewing things, and once we get ready to start it, because, it's gonna be interesting, and to adjust the system for it to be, the effort to be at the same height as all those manifolds and stuff is gonna be interesting, so. That's about it right now, because we got,
A lot, Kel.
If I could.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to get better about writing things down and waiting my turn. So I'm not just,
You're very good at it.
so I'm not just talking freely, cutting people off, so. Gil, just on, the Mo's septic system with, you said Woodburn over there, did they actually, I know they were gonna go and try to test the unit again and just try to see what actually happened. I mean, something's obviously wrong, something happened.
something happened, we don't, I mean, like you.
I mean, we don't wanna have that happen
We don't-
again,
no.
so.
It can't
I
happen
mean,
again.
something needs to be
Al Wood-
followed up
Al
with
Wood
that,
was
too.
there, he dug it up, maybe some rooting into the D-blocks. The only thing that was wrong, he said he started the pumps manually,
Happened to a Title V.
Well, we've basically already done that, I mean.
Did they do a flow test on it? They dig everything up and actually do a flow test?
Yeah,
I think they
did.
do.
He did
They
everything
need
up,
to.
didn't flow or anything, we started the pumps, because what happened is I wouldn't let him open up. So Al Wood came down, he pumped everything.
Mhm.
And then, a little bit later, we let him open up, because they didn't want to, shut him down completely, because we didn't really know what was going on.
Right.
Because, everybody's saying, well, there was 2,500 gallons flowing down Main Street at the time, so. So Al Wood dug it up, he found some, rooting in the D blocks, and, just gonna let it fill up again, and he's been told, do not let the pumps run automatically, because if he flips the switch, both those pumps start at once, and that's probably what happened. Both those pumps started at once and blew up 2,500 gallons of, effluent.
Right.
Over came the D blocks, blew up the vent and down the street, so,
Does Wood do inspections?
yeah.
He does. Is it possible? I do like that idea of maybe getting them to do a legitimate inspection and a report
you
and
can't-
file it with the office, just,
He cambered everything, I'll call him, tell him exactly
just
what we
because
did.
we don't want that to happen twice.
No, we don't.
What
know,
did they
so,
do with the stuff that went down the street?
It was all frozen, it had been the salt, salted it all down. So,
Yeah, I mean,
that's-
just if, it just
Oh, yeah,
sounds like
I
there's
mean,
something going on that maybe one of the floats is bad on the pump or something that
yeah, they
that
checked
led someone
that.
to manually
Yeah, the
put the controller on.
They
I
checked
don't
that,
know.
the pump's only a year old. Why, we don't know why, and he was questioning why he started the pumps manually. Because when he did that, as soon as he flipped the switch, apparently both pumps started at once, and then all hell broke loose, so.
Right.
So Al Wood's monitoring it, so, I'll have Al, just give us a little report on it when he comes.
Yeah, I mean,
He
if,
cambered everything, so.
I think it would be good just where there was a pretty significant incident to have some type of report or something done by him that he's, somewhat certifying this,
Yeah, the only
the
thing I put
system
my
that's over there,
report,
that it's operating correctly, they flow tested it and cycled the pumps, cycled the floats, that it's, it's actually operating correctly. Just so it don't happen again.
So, yeah.
And then,
Yeah, it was a significant, something, it shocked the hell out of me. Because when, I got there and the cops told me that it was coming out of the vent. What the hell, how can it come out of the vent? Got this
Shouldn't.
Pits, there's pits in the parking lot, so it don't make sense, but the only variable here is he started both pumps at the same time. So,
And then Golden Rolls old facility over there, does that have a basement over there?
No,
That's all,
the stucco
That's all
is,
slab?
yeah, it doesn't make sense, but they're underneath the slab. So, if you drive by, look at all the,
Yeah.
big boxes.
I
that they
saw
have
them.
there. You saw
I
that?
noticed.
Really?
How can you not see them?
They're visible from the road.
Yeah.
Is that big boxes?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, they're not issues. It's food.
Well, it's good that, when they, the pizza place came in, they did all stainless steel. It's all stainless steel inside and, you know, the 1458 liquor, that's, you know, that building's all clear except for where the gold mower is. And it seems like they all moved down to this corner of the building and they're in the ground.
Well, that dumpster's not far enough, I mean, there's
Yeah.
nowhere to put it, but that
Yeah.
dumpster's right outside the building, it's
Right
right there.
Well, we looked at, calling the grease company, that one, plastic container, the grease container, that had a crack and it was kinda leaking, so they emptied it out, so I don't think we're gonna get another one. And then they dropped off like 3 barrels, those barrels are for grease, and the person didn't make it, so they don't have locking lids, so.
Okay. That's all I have.
All right. Anything else, Gil?
No, that's it now, I think.
Sad. No, I think that comment is sad. Yeah, one of our restaurants. Facility relatively clean, best I've seen in a long time.
Oh, this was, oh no, this is the other document.
I'm just commenting on what she wrote, the inspector wrote, facility relatively clean, best I've seen in a long while.
What's that on?
That does not make me want to eat there.
Where?
Hanson,
Which facility?
one of your favorite places.
Which one?
Well, the trio. You're never down at this one, it's the other two on Main Street.
Oh, wow, yeah, I mean,
That's a sad comment.
it's,
Best I've seen in a long while.
yeah, it's ongoing, like, you know, the issues I have with Dollar Tree, I mean, I was there every day for how long, and, you know,
I don't eat there.
I mean, Dollar Tree, this Dollar Tree has to take a trailer every week, Thursdays, no matter what they have for storage. And we argue with, you know, corporate, people, you know, workers were screaming at customers, you know, everybody's fighting. You walk in the afternoon, everybody's fighting, you know, and I had the fire department go there, I had the building inspector go there because there's so much stuff that they bring in, they're forced to bring all that stuff that's there. And there's a group of kids that work there that, you know, they have a special area out back, they have their lunch, and how do I say it, Teresa? They're not, what do I call them people now? Geez, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
There's a correct word for that class that's there, and I don't use it correctly, so we had to make sure they had a safe place to have their lunch. But this carton's up there, it's just stacked the walls.
oh, places, I went in there with Vinny and it was a mess. And the guy that was
You
the
can't
manager
imagine,
at
if
the
that wall
time.
came down,
Sure.
well, one of the big stacks of stuff came down on the other end of the building, but it's,
I have no idea what you're trying to say.
okay, I think I'm set. Anything else?
Not for me.
I don't know, do you want to look at any more of these?
I'm gonna come in and look at them.
Kevin? There.
I'll stop in and look at them, so we can, I'll do that, I don't wanna hold the group up.
No, we could let you can take those down the hall.
Yeah, we
I'm good with that.
All right.
So we're all set?
All right.
Motion?
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?